Okay, in a world that's just overflowing with information, and let's be honest, pretty sophisticated persuasion, our minds are kind of under attack 24/7. So today, what we're going to do is build an intellectual toolkit. The goal? Not just to defend our own thinking, but to actually sharpen it so we can all become clearer thinkers and, more honest persuaders. This quote from the physicist Richard Feynman, this is our foundation for everything today. It's such a powerful idea, right? It's a humble reminder that the biggest, toughest intellectual battle we're ever going to face is actually with our own internal biases. This single principle, not fooling yourself, is the bedrock of everything we're about to get into.
Oh, you've totally been there. We all have. You're in the shower and you come up with the absolute perfect comeback for an argument you had 3 days ago. But reality? It's so much messier, isn't it? And that's because our brain isn't some perfect, flawless computer. It's more like an operating system, one that's built for speed and efficiency. But it comes with some, well, let's just say it has some very surprising and very exploitable bugs in the code.
So let's start by looking inward. Let's take a peek at the actual code that's running our thoughts and our reactions. Because before we can even begin to analyze what other people are saying, we have to get a handle on our own internal landscape. And this really gets to a core insight from thinkers like Dale Carnegie. We love to think of ourselves as these rational creatures making decisions based on logic. But the truth is, we're emotional animals first. We use our reason to justify the things we already feel. We feel first, and then we think second. And this is probably the biggest bug in our mental software. Confirmation bias is, at its heart, a shortcut. It just feels good to be right. But this makes us incredibly vulnerable, because it's like having a little yes man living in your head, constantly whispering, "You're right, you're totally right," while filtering out anything that might make you second-guess yourself. Which, of course, leads us to this really important question. I mean, if we're actually serious about thinking more clearly, we have to actively fight against our own programming. We almost have to become detectives, but detectives who are looking for clues that could prove our own theories wrong. It's not easy, but man, is it essential. Okay, so knowing that we're fundamentally wired for emotion, let's take a look at the timeless blueprint for how arguments are actually put together. This architecture was first mapped out by Aristotle more than 2,000 years ago, and believe it or not, it's still the foundation of how people try to persuade you today. Aristotle figured out there are basically three ways to persuade someone. First, you've got logos, which is the appeal to logic. That's all the facts, the data, the evidence. Then there's ethos, the appeal to character. That's about whether you trust the speaker. And finally, you have pathos, the appeal to emotion. Literally every single argument you hear is using some combination of these three levers to try to move you. So what happens when that logical architecture, the logos part, is weak or maybe even intentionally broken? Well, that's when we get what are called logical fallacies. These are just common errors in reasoning that make an argument totally invalid. And once you learn to spot them, I'm telling you, you will see them everywhere. The ad hominem attack is an absolute classic. Instead of actually dealing with the substance of an idea, the person just attacks the person who's presenting it. It is a pure and simple diversion tactic. The test is easy. Just ask yourself, is this attacking the argument or is it just attacking the person? If it's the person, a big red flag should pop up. You see this all the time, especially in politics. I mean, right here, what on earth does a person's private life have to do with the validity of their economic analysis? Nothing. The goal is simple. Discredit the speaker so you never have to actually engage with what they're saying. The straw man is another one that is just incredibly common. It's all about building this distorted, weaker, almost caricature-like version of your opponent's actual position because, well, that caricature is a whole lot easier to knock down. The key to spotting this is to ask yourself, is this really what the other person is arguing, or is this just an exaggerated, uncharitable version of their point? This is just a perfect real-world example. An argument about being polite and inclusive gets twisted into this dramatic attack on a beloved tradition. The second person isn't arguing with the real point at all. They're fighting a fictional enemy that they literally just invented. Okay, so let's scale this all up. How are these flaws in our thinking and these fallacies exploited not just in a one-on-one conversation, but on a massive industrial scale to shape public opinion? All right, take a look at this statement. Just read it. How does it make you feel? Pretty optimistic, right? A 90% survival rate? Those sound like pretty good odds. Okay, hold that thought. Did you feel that? That little shift in your gut?
It's the exact same data point, but framing it as a loss instead of a gain completely flips our emotional response. This is called the framing effect, and it is one of the most powerful tools in mass persuasion.
And this leads us to another really dangerous quirk in our brains. Our minds often mistake familiarity for truth. Just hearing a claim over and over again can make it feel true, even if we know logically that it isn't. This is the engine of modern propaganda. Repetition can literally bypass rational thought.
So, with all of this in mind, what's the path forward? How do we actually engage with people productively? The goal, it turns out, shouldn't be just to win. It should be to understand, to clarify, and to elevate the entire conversation. This is Paul Graham's hierarchy of disagreement, and it is a fantastic roadmap. It shows us how to climb out of the mud, the insults and the ad hominem attacks at the bottom, all the way up to the highest, most productive form of disagreement, actually engaging with and refuting the other person's central point. And this is just the fundamental rule for any kind of honest exchange. Christopher Hitchens called it his razor. It simply means that the burden of proof lies with the person who is making the claim. If they don't give you any evidence for what they're saying, you don't need any evidence to dismiss it. And ultimately, this all requires a pretty profound shift in our mindset. We have to stop seeing disagreement as some kind of combat, with a winner and a loser. We have to start seeing it as a collaborative search for what's actually true.
And that brings us right back to where we started. The ultimate challenge here isn't just spotting the flaws in other people, it's about applying these tools to ourselves, to our own most cherished beliefs, and having the intellectual courage to challenge that one person who is easiest to fool, ourselves. So, what will you discover?